The warning sirens started at 3 in the morning across every major city on Earth. People stumbled out of their beds, confused and scared. Their phones buzzed with emergency alerts. Television screens flickered to life with the same message. Unknown objects detected at the edge of our solar system. This is not a drill. Admiral Sarah Kovach was already awake when the call came. She had been reviewing security reports in her office at the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Now she stood in the command center, watching 12 massive shapes appear on the holographic display. They were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Much bigger. How long until they reach Earth? She asked. At their current speed, 72 hours, replied Lieutenant Morrison, his hands shaking as he worked the controls. Admiral, they're slowing down. They want us to see them coming. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. 40 years she had served in Earth's defense forces. 40 years preparing for this exact moment. But now that it was here, she felt small. Helpless. Then the message came through. Every radio, every television, every computer on Earth received it at the same time. The voice was calm, warm, and spoke in perfect English. Then it repeated in Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, and dozens of other languages. People of Earth, do not be afraid. We are the Galactic Concordance. We come in peace. We have watched your species from afar and now wish to welcome you to the galactic community. We bring gifts of knowledge, friendship, and a place among the stars. We mean you no harm. The world held its breath. Within hours, the United Earth government called an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered in the assembly hall, their faces showing every emotion from joy to terror. Sarah stood at the back, her arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold. This is humanity's greatest moment, shouted the delegate from Brazil, his eyes shining with tears. We are not alone. We must be cautious, warned the Chinese representative. We know nothing about them or their intentions. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the Secretary General raised her hand for silence. We will respond with peace, she announced. We will send a delegation to meet with them. Ambassador Chen Wei will lead our team. Chen Wei stood and bowed slightly. He was a careful man, a diplomat who had spent his life solving conflicts between nations. Now he would speak for all of humanity. Sarah caught his eye as the meeting ended. Be careful up there, she said quietly. Chen smiled. They said they come in peace, Admiral. Perhaps we should trust them. Perhaps, Sarah replied. But I will keep our defenses ready, just in case. 3 days later, the alien ships arrived at Earth's orbit. They were beautiful in a way that took everyone's breath away. Smooth, elegant vessels that looked more like art than machines. They glowed with soft blue light and moved through space like dancers. A small shuttle detached from the largest ship and descended to Earth. It landed in Geneva, in a park that had been cleared for the historic meeting. Billions of people watched on their screens as the door opened. The aliens who stepped out were not what anyone expected. There were 7 of them, each from a different species. One looked like a tall, thin human covered in silver scales. Another resembled a floating jellyfish made of light. A third had 4 arms and eyes that sparkled like jewels. They were strange, beautiful, and completely alien. The leader stepped forward. His name was Vector, and he looked almost human except for his golden skin and the way he seemed to shimmer slightly in the sunlight. Ambassador Chen, Vector said, his voice melodious. It is an honor to meet you and your species. We have much to discuss. The first meeting lasted 6 hours. Vector explained that the Concordance was a union of 43 different species across the galaxy. They had maintained peace for 3,000 years. They shared technology, protected each other, and worked together to make the galaxy a better place. We have medicine that can cure any disease, Vector said. We have ships that can travel faster than light. We have energy sources that never run out. All of this we wish to share with humanity. Chen could hardly believe what he was hearing. And what do you ask in return? Only that you join us in our commitment to peace, Vector replied. The Concordance was formed after terrible wars nearly destroyed everything. We learned that some weapons are too dangerous to exist. We ask that all member species agree to certain restrictions on their military capabilities. What kind of restrictions? Chen asked carefully. We have laws against what we call doomsday-class weapons. Weapons that can destroy planets or entire populations. All member species must dismantle such weapons and pledge never to build them again. Chen looked at the other human negotiators. They nodded slowly. Humanity had nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and other terrible things. But nothing that could destroy a planet. The price seemed small for what they would gain. We would need time to discuss this with our governments, Chen said. Of course, Vector replied warmly. We would also like to conduct a standard inspection of your military capabilities. This is normal procedure for all new member species. It helps us understand how to best integrate you into our defense systems. That night, Chen reported back to the United Earth government. The assembly hall was filled with excitement. Representatives talked over each other, dreaming of the future. Cures for cancer, colonies on distant worlds, an end to war. But in the back of the room, Admiral Sarah Kovac sat silent. Something felt wrong. She could not explain it, but her instincts were screaming at her. After the meeting, she returned to her office and made a call to a secure line. Dr. Okonkwo, she said when a tired face appeared on her screen. We may have a problem. James Okonkwo was the lead engineer of humanity's most classified project. He worked in a hidden shipyard near Saturn's rings where humanity had been building something for the past 40 years. Something the aliens did not know about. The Concordance wants to inspect our military, Sarah continued. How long before they find out about the Titan? James was quiet for a moment. If they look hard enough? A few weeks. Maybe less. Sarah closed her eyes. The UESS Titan was Earth's greatest secret and greatest hope. A warship so massive, so powerful, that it had required the resources of an entire moon to build. It had been constructed in secret, piece by piece, designed to protect humanity from unknown threats from the stars. Now those threats had arrived with smiles and promises. Keep working, Sarah ordered, and be ready to move if I give the word. Understood, Admiral. Sarah ended the call and looked out her window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the alien ships hung in orbit, glowing like new stars. The world was celebrating. Humanity's dream of joining the galactic community was coming true. So why did she feel like they were walking into a trap? She had spent her entire career preparing for war. Maybe she was just paranoid. Maybe the aliens really did come in peace. Or maybe she thought humanity was about to learn a hard lesson about trust. 2 weeks after first contact, the Concordance inspection team arrived at Earth's largest military base in Nevada. Ambassador Chen Wei accompanied them, along with Admiral Sarah Kovac and a dozen high-ranking military officers. Everyone wore their best uniforms and forced smiles. Vector walked through the base with the ease of someone who had done this many times before. His team carried strange devices that hummed and blinked as they scanned everything. They examined Earth's fighter jets, missile systems, and orbital defense platforms. Impressive, Vector said, though his tone suggested he meant the opposite. Your kinetic weapons show remarkable ingenuity, very creative use of limited resources. One of his team members, a being that looked like a walking crystal, laughed softly. They still use chemical propulsion for most of their ships. How charming, Sarah felt her jaw clench. She knew Earth's technology was primitive compared to the aliens, but the way they talked made her feel like a child showing off crayon drawings to adults. We have not had 3,000 years of peace to develop our technology, she said coldly. We have had to fight for every advancement. Vector turned to her, and for just a moment something flickered in his eyes. Was it respect? Or was it concern? Of course, Admiral, he said smoothly. Your species' history of conflict is well documented. That is precisely why the Concordance's offer is so valuable. Imagine what you could achieve if you did not have to spend resources on weapons. Chen stepped forward, ever the diplomat. The Secretary General has authorized us to share our complete military inventory with you. We have nothing to hide. Excellent, Vector replied. Transparency builds trust. Over the next few days, the inspection team visited bases on every continent. They toured submarine yards, examined nuclear stockpiles, and reviewed Earth's satellite defense network. Everywhere they went, they seemed both impressed and amused by human ingenuity. But Sarah noticed something. Whenever the aliens finished inspecting a facility, they seemed relieved, like they had been worried and found out they did not need to be. On the 5th day, the delegation visited the European Space Agency headquarters. Chen gave a presentation about humanity's space exploration efforts. He showed them footage of Mars colonies, mining operations on the moon, and the research stations on Jupiter's moons. And this is the extent of your deep space capabilities? Asked Vector. Yes, Chen replied. We have explored our solar system thoroughly, but we have not yet achieved faster-than-light travel. Remarkable that you have come so far without it, Vector said. He tapped something on a device at his wrist. And you have no ships currently under construction beyond your orbital platforms? Chen hesitated for just a fraction of a second. No, nothing beyond what we have shown you. Sarah saw it. The tiny pause. The slight shift in Chen's eyes. He was lying, but why? That evening, Sarah cornered Chen in his hotel room. You lied to them, she said flatly. Chen poured himself a drink with shaking hands. I did not lie. I simply did not mention certain classified projects. What projects? Ones I'm not authorized to discuss with you, Admiral. Sarah grabbed his arm. Chen, listen to me. Something is wrong with these aliens. I have felt it since the beginning. If you are hiding something from them, they will find out. And when they do what? Chen pulled his arm free. They will revoke their offer? Send us back to being alone in the universe? Sarah, they are offering us everything. We cannot let paranoia destroy this opportunity. Paranoia kept humanity alive, Sarah shot back. We survived because we prepared for the worst. And that is exactly the problem, Chen said quietly. That is why we need the concordance, to finally break free from our violent past. Sarah left without another word. She went straight to a secure communication terminal and called Dr. Okonkwo again. His face appeared on the screen, older and more tired than before. Behind him, she could see the massive construction bay where the Titan was docked. Admiral, he said, we have a problem. Sarah's blood went cold. Tell me. Someone hacked our communication network 3 days ago. Very sophisticated. Very careful. They were looking for something specific. Did they find it? They found references to Project Titan. Names, locations, budget allocations. They do not know what it is yet, but they know it exists. Sarah closed her eyes. How long do we have? They will demand access soon. Maybe 48 hours. Maybe less. Can you move the Titan? She is not ready, Admiral. We need at least another month for final systems testing. Make her ready in 2 days, Sarah ordered. I want her operational and I want her ready to move. Understood? Understood. The next morning, Vector requested an immediate meeting with the United Earth government. Sarah and Chen were summoned to the assembly hall, where the Secretary General and the entire council waited. Vector stood at the center of the room, his golden skin seeming dimmer than before. His expression was no longer warm and friendly. He looked disappointed, angry even. Members of the United Earth government, he began, his voice echoing through the hall. We have discovered that you have not been entirely honest with us. The room fell silent. We have found evidence of a classified military project. Something called Project Titan, a ship being constructed in secret near Saturn. Vector's eyes swept across the assembly. We ask now directly and clearly, what is the Titan? No one spoke. Sarah saw the Secretary General's hands grip her chair so hard her knuckles turned white. Finally, Chen stood. The Titan is a defensive vessel. A precaution. Surely you understand that we needed to protect ourselves before we knew who or what might be out there. A precaution, Vector repeated slowly, or a doomsday weapon. We do not know what it is until we see it, the crystal being added. Allow us to inspect this Titan immediately. The Secretary General looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at Chen. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. We need time to discuss this, the Secretary General said finally. You have 72 hours, Vector said coldly. Either you allow us to inspect the Titan, or we will be forced to classify humanity as a potential threat species. And the Concordance has protocols for dealing with threats. The aliens left the assembly hall without another word. As soon as the doors closed, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded they reveal the Titan immediately. Others insisted they refuse and prepare for war. Sarah stood and walked to the large window overlooking the city. Below, people went about their lives, unaware that the next 72 hours might determine humanity's survival. What is it? Chen asked quietly, coming to stand beside her. What is the Titan really? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, It is the biggest gun humanity has ever built. It was designed to kill things we cannot even imagine. And now, Ambassador, we have to decide whether to show it to them or use it. Chen stared at her in horror. You cannot be serious. We cannot go to war with the Concordance. They have 43 species, thousands of ships, technology we cannot match. Maybe, Sarah said. Or maybe they are afraid of what we might become. Maybe that is why they are really here. Not to welcome us, but to make sure we never become a threat. That is insane, is it? Sarah turned to face him. Think, Chen. They have been very interested in our weapons. Very relieved that we are primitive. Very insistent that we disarm. What if the concordance is not what they claim to be? Chen opened his mouth to argue but could not find the words. Sarah's communication device buzzed. It was Dr. Okonkwo. Admiral, he said, his voice tight with urgency. Concordance ships are moving into orbit around Saturn. They are looking for us. Sarah looked out at the city one more time. Wake her up, she ordered. Activate the Titan. Admiral Sarah Kovacs walked into the emergency session of the United Earth Government Council, carrying a data pad. Her face was grim. She had not slept in 3 days. I need to show you something, she said without preamble. Something our deep space scouts discovered. The Secretary General nodded and Sarah activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the council table. Planets, ships, and ruins. This is the Kepler 442 system, Sarah began. 70 light-years from Earth. 3 years ago, we sent an unmanned probe there. It just returned. The images showed a planet that had once been green and blue like Earth. Now it was gray and dead. This planet had life. Advanced life. We found the remains of cities, orbital platforms, and a civilization that was just beginning to reach for the stars. Sarah's voice was hard. They were destroyed 40 years ago. Completely wiped out. By what? Asked the Chinese representative. Sarah pressed a button. New images appeared. Ships. Elegant, glowing ships that everyone in the room recognized immediately. By the concordance. The room erupted in shouting. Sarah raised her hand for silence. There is more. We sent probes to 15 other systems. We found the same pattern in 6 of them. Dead civilizations, all destroyed within the last century, all at the same stage of development that we are now. Ambassador Chen stood, his face pale. That cannot be right. There must be some explanation. Perhaps these civilizations attacked first, or... I thought so too, Sarah interrupted. So I did more research. I looked at the species that make up the concordance. Do you know what they all have in common? She pulled up profiles of the 43 member species. None of them were military powers when they joined. None of them had strong weapons or aggressive cultures. They were peaceful, advanced in science and art, but weak in terms of defense. Sarah's eyes swept the room. Every species that joined the concordance did so from a position of weakness. And every species that refused was destroyed. You are saying the concordance is not what they claim, the Secretary General said slowly. I am saying they are conquerors who learn to conquer through diplomacy instead of war, Sarah replied. They find species that are about to develop dangerous technology. They offer peace and advancement. If the species accepts and disarms, they become part of the concordance. If they refuse, they are eliminated as a threat. Chen shook his head violently. This is speculation. Paranoid speculation, is it? Sarah pulled up another file. I had our intelligence teams analyze the concordance's behavior since they arrived. Every question they asked was about our weapons. Every inspection focused on our military capabilities. They were not interested in our culture, our art, or our science. Only our ability to fight. She pulled up the video of Vector's face during the inspections. The relief in his eyes. They were afraid we might have something dangerous. And when they found out we did not, they relaxed. Until they discovered Project Titan. The Brazilian delegate leaned forward. Why would they be afraid of us? We are one species. They have 43. We do not even have faster-than-light travel. Because we are different, Sarah said quietly. Look at the concordance species. They achieved peace on their homeworlds before they reached space. We did not. We went to space while still fighting each other. We built weapons while we built colonies. We competed, we struggled, we invented new ways to kill each other. That made us dangerous. She brought up humanity's military history. Thousands of years of warfare, weapons that grew more terrible with each generation. We are not like them. We are not peaceful by nature. We are survivors, fighters. And if we had a few more centuries, we would have built things that could threaten even the concordance. So they came now, the Secretary General said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Before we became too dangerous. Exactly. The room fell into stunned silence. Finally, the Russian representative spoke. What do you propose we do, Admiral? Sarah straightened. We have 72 hours before Vector's deadline. We need to make a choice. Do we surrender the Titans, submit to their rules, and hope they allow us to survive as a junior member of their empire? Or do we show them that humanity will not go quietly into the night? You want to fight them? Chen's voice was filled with horror. That is suicide. Even with the Titan, we cannot win against their entire fleet. Maybe not, Sarah agreed. But maybe we do not need to win. Maybe we just need to show them that conquering us will cost them more than they are willing to pay. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for surrender. Better to live as subordinates than die as heroes. Others demanded resistance. Humanity had not survived this long by bowing to threats. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. The room fell silent as each representative cast their decision. When it was done, the Secretary General looked at Sarah with tired eyes. The vote is split down the middle. 18 for compliance, 18 for resistance. The decision falls to me. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth. At the cities full of people who did not know their future hung in the balance. I became Secretary General because I believed in peace, she said quietly. I have spent my life trying to end wars, not start them. But I will not trade freedom for survival. I will not let humanity become slaves, even comfortable ones. She turned back to the room. Admiral Kovac, send the order. Bring the Titan home. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Yes, Madam Secretary. She activated her communicator. Dr. Okonkwo, this is Admiral Kovac, authorization code Alpha 79er. You are ordered to activate the UESS Titan and proceed to Earth at best speed. There was a pause on the other end. Then Dr. Okonkwo's voice came through, steady and determined. Copy that, Admiral. Beginning activation sequence now. The Titan will be underway in 6 hours. Sarah ended the call and looked at Chen. The ambassador sat with his head in his hands. I hope you are right about this, he said quietly. So do I, Sarah replied. Far away near Saturn's rings, lights began to glow in the darkness. The hidden shipyard, concealed by stealth fields and asteroid debris, came to life. Thousands of engineers and crew members rushed to their stations. At the center of it all, the UESS Titan began to wake up. She was 15 kilometers long, a massive wedge of metal and composite armor. Her hull was made from compressed neutronium, harvested from the core of a captured asteroid and shaped by gravitational presses. She bristled with weapons that humanity had spent 40 years developing in secret. Dr. James Okonkwo stood on the command deck, watching his life's work come online. Every system, every weapon, every piece of technology represented years of work by thousands of people. People who believed that humanity needed a guardian, a protector against the unknown. Now the unknown had a name. The Concordance, all systems are coming online, reported his chief engineer. Power core is stable. Weapons are charging. Engines are ready. How long until we can move? James asked. 4 hours, sir. You have 2. Make it happen. On Earth, Admiral Kovac stood before the United Earth government one more time. The Concordance ships are moving into aggressive positions around our planet, she reported. They know we are bringing the Titan. They are preparing for a confrontation. Can we still negotiate? Asked one of the delegates desperately. We can always negotiate, Sarah replied. But now we will negotiate from strength, not from fear. When the Titan arrives, everything changes. They will have to decide if they really want to go to war with humanity. Chen stood. And if they do, if they decide to destroy us before the Titan arrives? Sarah met his eyes. Then we fight with everything we have. And we make sure the galaxy remembers that humanity did not die quietly. She walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Concordance fleet was waiting. And somewhere beyond Saturn, the Titan was coming home. Sarah had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. She had trained for war, planned for invasion, and built defenses against imagined threats. Now those threats were real, and everything she had worked for would be tested. How long until the Titan arrives? The Secretary General asked. Sarah checked her display. 6 hours. Then we wait, the Secretary General said. And we pray that we made the right choice. But Sarah was not praying. She was calculating, planning, preparing for the moment when the Titan emerged from the darkness and showed the Concordance what humanity was really capable of. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Humanity had not reached the stars by being weak. They had climbed out of their planet through conflict, competition, and the constant need to survive. They had built the Titan not out of aggression, but out of the knowledge that the universe was dangerous. And now, finally, they would see if they had built her well enough. The Concordance fleet hung in orbit around Earth like a necklace of glowing jewels. 12 elegant ships, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering. Inside the flagship, Vector stood before a holographic display showing Earth below. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships are in position, Commander," his tactical officer replied. She was from the crystalline species, her body refracting light in rainbow patterns. "We have targeting solutions on all major Earth cities and military installations. Human defense platforms are active, but they pose no significant threat." Vector nodded. This was routine. He had done this 17 times before with other pre-spacefaring species. Some chose wisdom and joined peacefully. Others chose pride and were removed. Either way, the Concordance grew stronger and the galaxy became safer. "Any word on this Titan vessel?" he asked. "Our scouts near Saturn detected high-energy readings 6 hours ago. Something is moving. Something large." Vector felt a flicker of concern. The humans had kept this secret well. Too well. What could they have built that required so much secrecy? "How large?" The tactical officer hesitated. "Our sensors are having difficulty getting accurate readings, Commander. There seems to be some kind of interference, but based on the gravitational distortion, it must be at least 5 kilometers long." Vector relaxed slightly. Large, but not threatening. The Concordance had ships twice that size in their reserve fleet. "Maintain alert status. When it arrives, we will demand its surrender." But as the hours passed, the sensor readings grew stranger. The mass estimates kept increasing. 5 kilometers became 7, then 10. The tactical officer recalibrated the instruments 3 times. "Commander, there must be an error in our sensors." "What do you mean?" "The reading suggests the approaching vessel is 15 kilometers long. That is impossible. No pre-FTL species could construct something that massive." Vector felt ice in his veins. "Show me." The hologram shifted, showing the trajectory from Saturn to Earth. And there, still too far away to see clearly, was a massive gravitational distortion moving through space. "All ships, battle alert," Vector commanded. "Prepare all weapons. Whatever is coming, we take no chances." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Kovacs stood in the war room, surrounded by screens showing every angle of the battlefield. The Concordance ships glowed in orbit, their weapons charged and ready. Below them, Earth's defense platforms tracked their movements, tiny by comparison but armed with humanity's best weapons. "Status of the Titan?" she asked. 2 hours out, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Morrison. "Dr. Okonkwo reports all systems are operational." "She is running at full power," Sarah nodded. 2 hours. 2 hours until everything changed. Ambassador Chen entered the room looking exhausted. "The Concordance is demanding we stand down our defenses. They say this is our last chance to avoid conflict." "Tell them we will stand down when they leave our system," Sarah replied coldly. "Sarah, please. There is still time to negotiate." "We are negotiating, Chen. We are just doing it with our weapons armed instead of our weapons surrendered." She turned to face him. "You wanted to trust them. You wanted to believe they came in peace, but they came to disarm us, to make us weak, to ensure we could never threaten them. That is not peace. That is submission." Chen started to argue, but a technician interrupted. "Admiral, the Titan is decloaking." Every screen in the room focused on the same point in space. And there, emerging from a stealth field that had hidden her during the journey, was the UESS Titan. She was enormous. 15 kilometers of dark metal and composite armor, shaped like a massive spearhead. Her hull was midnight black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Along her flanks, weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. At her stern, 6 massive engines burned with blue-white fire. She looked like a predator. Ancient and terrifying, the room fell silent. Even Sarah, who had overseen the Titan's construction, felt her breath catch. Seeing her on blueprints was one thing. Seeing her in reality, moving through space like a mountain with purpose, was something else entirely. "My God," Chen whispered. On the Concordance flagship, alarms blared. The tactical officer's crystalline body pulsed with red light, a sign of extreme stress in her species. "Commander, the vessel is 3 times larger than our dreadnoughts. Mass estimates are still climbing. It is made of compressed neutronium armor. Our standard weapons would barely scratch it." Vector stared at the hologram in disbelief. This was not possible. Pre-FTL species did not build things like this. They should not even understand the physics required. "What are we looking at?" he asked quietly. "A doomsday weapon, Commander. Exactly what we came here to prevent." The Titan moved into a position between Earth and the Concordance fleet. She turned slowly, presenting her profile, making sure the aliens got a good look at every weapon, every armor plate, every intimidating detail. Then a communication channel opened. Admiral Sarah Kovach's face appeared on every Concordance ship screen. "Commander Vector," she said, her voice calm and cold. "I am Admiral Sarah Kovach of the United Earth Defense Force. I command the UESS Titan. You wanted to see our military capabilities. Here they are." Vector found his voice. "Admiral, you must understand that vessels of this class are prohibited under Concordance law." "They are a threat to galactic peace." "A threat to your control, you mean?" Sarah replied. "We know about the dead civilizations, Vector. We know what the Concordance really does. You find species that might become threats and you eliminate them before they can defend themselves. That is not true. We maintain peace. We prevent war." "You prevent competition," Sarah corrected. "You cannot allow anyone to become strong enough to challenge you. So you come with smiles and promises, and you disarm anyone who might one day be dangerous. But humanity is not so easily fooled." The communication channel filled with other Concordance commanders. They were arguing, their voices overlapping. "We should destroy it now before it can fire. We outnumber them 12-1. Concentrate all fire on that ship. We can overwhelm it." But Vector was calculating. The Titan's position was perfect. She was between the Concordance fleet and Earth. To attack her, they would have to get past her weapons first. "And those weapons looked very, very dangerous, Admiral," Vector said carefully. "Even with that vessel, you cannot win against our full might. We have thousands of ships across the galaxy." "Perhaps," Sarah agreed, "but you have 12 here, and I only need to kill 12. She paused, letting that sink in. "Titan weapon systems target the nearest Concordance vessel. Prepare a demonstration." On the Titan's command deck, Dr. Okonkwo sat in the captain's chair. He had never imagined he would command her in battle. He was an engineer, not a warrior, but he knew every system, every weapon, every strength and weakness of this ship better than anyone. "Targeting solution locked," his weapons officer reported. "Graviton beam cannon charged and ready. Target the mining platform at coordinate 773 Mark 442, James ordered. It was an old platform, abandoned years ago, 500,000 kilometers away. "Fire when ready." The Titan's forward weapon array glowed bright blue. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. Then a beam of pure gravitational force lanced out across the void. The mining platform, massive by human standards, simply ceased to exist. It did not explode. It did not break apart. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was gone, torn apart at the subatomic level. Every sensor in the Concordance fleet registered the weapon discharge. Their computers calculated the energy output, the beam coherence, the destructive potential. The tactical officer turned to Vector, her voice shaking. "Commander, that weapon just released energy equivalent to 700 of our plasma lances. The Titan has 12 of those cannons, plus conventional weapons we cannot even catalog from these readings." Vector felt fear for the first time in his long career. "Real fear." Sarah's voice came through again. "You came to Earth to disarm us, to make us weak. But you miscalculated. We built the Titan precisely because we knew the universe was dangerous. We knew that peace only exists when those who want peace are strong enough to defend it." "You are risking everything," Vector said. "We can call for reinforcements. We can bring fleets that will darken your sky. And we will destroy them," Sarah replied simply. "One by one if we must. The Titan can operate for 10 years without resupply. She can survive in the void for a century. She was built to fight and to win, no matter the odds. Are you prepared to spend decades trying to destroy us? Are you prepared to lose hundreds of ships? Because that is what it will cost." The Concordance fleet held position. For the first time in 3,000 years, they faced an opponent they could not simply intimidate or overwhelm. "You cannot win this," Vector said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Neither can you," Sarah replied. "So I suggest we find another option." She leaned forward, her eyes hard. "Here is my proposal. You leave our system. You grant humanity membership in the Concordance as equals, not as subordinates. We keep our weapons. We keep our independence. And in exchange, we do not share the Titan's technology with any other species you have bullied into submission." "That is extortion." "That is negotiation," Sarah corrected. You wanted to see what kind of species we are. Now you know. We are the species that builds ships like the Titan. We are the species that does not surrender. We are the species that will make the galaxy remember. The standoff lasted 3 days. The Concordance fleet remained in orbit around Earth, weapons charged, but not firing. The Titan held her position between them and the planet, a silent guardian that never moved, never wavered. On Earth, people watched the skies and wondered if they would live to see another sunrise. Finally, on the 3rd day, Vector sent a message. We wish to negotiate, face to face. Admiral Sarah Kovac received the message on the Titan's bridge. She had transferred her command there 2 days earlier, taking personal control of humanity's most powerful weapon. Dr. James Okonkwo stood beside her, having gladly given up the captain's chair to someone who actually knew how to fight a war. Do you trust them? James asked quietly. No, Sarah replied. But I am curious what they want to say. She opened a channel. You may come aboard the Titan. Bring no more than 5 others. No weapons. No recording devices. We will talk, commander to commander. 6 hours later, a small Concordance shuttle approached the Titan. It looked like a toy next to the massive warship. The shuttle landed in the Titan's main hangar bay, a space so vast it could hold 300 human fighters. Vector emerged first, followed by 5 other Concordance officials. They looked around the hangar with barely concealed awe and fear. The walls were lined with weapons. Automated defense systems tracked their every movement. Human Marines in powered armor stood guard, their weapons ready. Sarah waited for them at the center of the hangar, wearing her full dress uniform. Ambassador Chen Wei stood beside her, looking uncomfortable. Behind them, 10 more Marines stood at attention. Welcome aboard the Titan, Sarah said coldly. Follow me. She led them through the ship's corridors. The Concordance delegation saw crew members moving with military precision, weapons lockers on every level, battle damage repair stations ready for action. Everything about the Titan screamed one message. This ship was built for war. They arrived at a conference room. It was plain and functional, with a large table and chairs designed for humans. The aliens had to adjust to the furniture, looking awkward and out of place. Sarah sat at the head of the table. Chen sat to her right. The Concordance delegation sat across from them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Vector broke the silence. You were right about us, he said quietly. Sarah raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Vector continued, his golden skin seeming to dim. The Concordance was not formed through peace and mutual cooperation. It was formed through conquest. Conquest that learned to wear a smile. He activated a holographic display from a device on the table. Images appeared. Planets. Species. The true history of the Concordance. 3,000 years ago, my species, the Velkar, were a military empire. We conquered 40 systems through force. We were unstoppable. But we learned that conquest through war was expensive. Ships were destroyed. Soldiers died. Planets were damaged. There had to be a better way. Another Concordance official spoke. She was from the crystalline species, her voice like wind chimes. We discovered that most species would surrender if we gave them a choice between annihilation and submission disguised as partnership. We offered them technology, peace, and a place in our alliance. All they had to do was disarm and follow our laws. And those who refused? Chen asked. Were eliminated as threats to galactic stability, Vector said flatly. We told ourselves we were preventing wars, maintaining peace. But you are correct, Admiral. We were preventing competition. We could not allow any species to become strong enough to challenge us. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Why are you telling us this? Because you built the Titan, Vector said, gesturing around them. Because you saw through our deception. Because you were willing to fight even when it seemed impossible. In 3,000 years, no species has done what you did. He looked directly at Sarah. We have been stagnant for centuries. We grew soft, comfortable. We forgot what it means to struggle, to compete, to push the boundaries of what is possible. We thought we had created a perfect society, but all we created was a cage. One of the other aliens, a being that resembled a floating sphere of light, spoke next. When we saw what you built, we were terrified. A pre-FTL species constructing a weapon that could threaten our dreadnoughts. It should have been impossible. It meant you were different from every other species we had encountered. Different how? James asked. Dangerous, the sphere said simply, but also innovative, creative. You built the Titan with resources that would barely construct a cruiser by our standards. You turned your limitations into advantages. You thought like survivors, not like conquerors. Vector nodded slowly. We came here to disarm you, to neutralize a potential threat. But standing here now on this ship, I realize we were wrong. Not wrong about you being dangerous, you are, but wrong about what that means. He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at Earth hanging in space beyond. The galaxy is changing. Beyond concordant space, there are threats we have not told our members about. Aggressive species that see our peace as weakness. They have not attacked yet because we have the numbers and the technology to defend ourselves. But they are growing stronger. And we are growing weaker, Sarah understood. You have not had a real challenge in 3,000 years. You have not had to innovate or adapt. You have been so busy controlling smaller species that you forgot how to fight equals. Exactly, Vector said. And when those threats finally come, we may not be ready. He turned back to face them. That is why I am here to propose something different. Not submission. Not subordination. But an actual alliance, Sarah crossed her arms. What kind of alliance? Humanity joins the Concordance as a full member. Equal status. Equal vote. You keep the Titan and all your weapons. You keep your independence. In exchange, you share your military technology with us. You help us remember how to fight, how to compete, how to survive. Chen's eyes widened. You want us to militarize the Concordance? We want you to teach us to defend ourselves properly, the crystalline being corrected. For too long, we have relied on intimidation and numbers. But you built the Titan with limited resources in only 40 years. Imagine what we could build together. Sarah was quiet for a long time, thinking. And what about the other species? The ones you bullied into joining? Vector looked uncomfortable. That will be complicated. Some will demand the right to rearm. Some will want reparations. It will be messy and difficult. Good, Sarah said bluntly. It should be. You owe them that much. She stood and walked to the viewport beside Vector, looking out at Earth. My entire career, I prepared for war. I built defenses. I planned strategies. I created the Titan because I believed humanity needed protection from the unknown. And I was right. The unknown came with a smile and wanted to destroy us quietly. She turned to face him. But I did not build the Titan to conquer. I built her to protect. If we join the Concordance, that is what we will do. We will protect it, all of it. Even the species you wronged. Especially them. Agreed, Vector said. We have much to answer for. Over the next week, the negotiations continued. Lawyers and diplomats from both sides worked day and night to draft a new charter for the Concordance. One that gave every species equal rights. One that allowed defensive weapons but prohibited weapons of conquest. One that turned the Concordance from a hidden empire into an actual alliance. It was not perfect. There were arguments, compromises, and concessions on both sides. But slowly, a new agreement took shape. When it was finally ready, Sarah stood before the United Earth government one last time to present the treaty. This is not what we expected when the Concordance arrived, she said. We thought they came in peace. They did not. But through strength, through refusing to bow, we forced them to change. Now we have a real alliance, one built on respect, not fear. The vote was unanimous. Earth would join the Concordance as an equal member. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the Titan's bridge looking at a star map. The Titan had been renamed the Guardian, and she now served as the flagship of the newly reformed Concordance Defense Fleet. Her crew was a mix of humans and aliens, learning to work together. Admiral, her communications officer, called out. It was Lieutenant Morrison who had followed her from Earth. We are receiving a message from the Kepler 186 system. It is a pre-FTL civilization. They detected our ships in their system and are asking for our intentions. Sarah smiled. Open a channel. Let us see if we can do this right this time. But before she could respond, another message arrived. This one from an unfamiliar species. Admiral, we are receiving multiple requests for contact. 3 different pre-FTL species. They say they have heard about humanity's entry into the Concordance. They are asking for our help to resist Concordance disarmament protocols. Sarah looked at the star map. Red markers appeared, showing 3 different solar systems where species were facing the same choice humanity had faced. Submit or be destroyed. Chen, who had been assigned as the Concordance's ambassador for new species integration, looked worried. What do we do, Admiral? Technically, the Concordance could still enforce their old protocols on these SP.